Welcome back to Automation Ladies. It is I guess I still call it summer, but some people will call it fall. Or if you read our most recent post, pumpkin spice latte season. It's not my favorite, but we were just talking before the show. We have Sean Mulheron with us from EPLAN, and he was asking, hey, are we, all in the same place? And we're lucky enough to have both Courtney and Allie with us today. So if you guys don't know Automation Ladies yet, and you haven't watched us before, I would like to, I guess maybe we should introduce ourselves and then let Sean do the same. But hello, I'm Nikki Gonzalez, co-host of Automation Ladies, as well as head of partnerships at QuoteBeam. And I am based in Houston, Texas, currently at home. And thank you so much for joining us. Allie and Courtney, I'll let you guys take a turn as well. Introduce yourselves. It's been a while since we've been in front of everybody together.
Courtney, you first.
Me first. Okay, I'm Courtney Fernandez, and I'm with United Robotics Group, and I'm in the office today. We're based out of California, and right now I get to be at home, but we go everywhere. So
California's a big place. You're in Southern California, the LA area,
I'm
right?
in Southern California. Yep.
Beautiful
area.
All right. Well, I guess let's go clockwise. Sean, you can go next.
Yes. Thank you for having me on your show, Automation Ladies. I think
Absolutely.
it's going to be a lot of fun. But my name is Sean Mulheron. I've been with EPLAN for 30 years now. Celebrated my 30th year, beginning of the month. So,
well, congratulations!
Congratulations!
Thank you. I'm really
excited.
excited. It's been a great ride, and I absolutely love the company. People are great, and the product is really cool. It's so much fun to use and to show and to help. So, and then since 2013, actually since 2000, I've been in the U.S. My mother's American, so I got an American passport, so I'm able to come here and work. And then in 2013, I was able to join the product management group at EPLAN. So I report to HQ back in Germany, and I help develop the solutions that our customers are going to use. So my responsibility now is an international solutions architect, which means that I identify solution requirements internationally, like what are the standards in the US, in Asia, in Europe, and see if there's special requirements, and then kind of feed them back into the product.
That's awesome. We have a few people saying hi here, so I wanted to.
Yeah, Johnny Wilson recognizes you. So you said that you have American citizenship because of your mom. What is your other citizenship? Are you also German?
The other citizenship, it's kind of complicated. I was born in Germany. I was born in Hamburg, so it makes me a hamburger.
Awesome.
But I never took on the German citizenship, but my father was Irish. But he was born in England, so he has the British passport. So I'm a British citizen.
Oh,
so that makes.
So you are German, but not. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then
cool.
I was raised in France for 14 years, so
nice.
Completes the
wow.
That.
Wow. Okay, you are very international. Yeah, I'm Allie G. I'm the other co-host, one of the other co-hosts, because Courtney is one too now. But one of the other co-hosts of Automation Ladies, and I own my own company. It's a systems integration firm out of the Pacific Northwest called Process and Controls Engineering LLC. But that's a giant mouthful, so I like to just shorten it to PCE LLC, which is also the website. So you could go PCE.LLC. But yeah, I'm happy to be here with my friends, and I've had like a couple different EPLAN demos before, but I've never got the opportunity to actually like embrace it full on, and but I've never seen anything except like amazing capabilities, and that was a long time ago when I saw that. So I'm excited to see, what Sean's going to show us right now, because yeah, it's been a while, and like these types of companies, especially German ones, are going to have like huge, like they're always trying to fix stuff. If you like follow Siemens and like other companies, they want to be the best, and you can't be the best if you don't embrace your customer and take on whatever it is that they keep saying that you need to be the best. Absolutely. So, and they listen. So, yeah.
Very cool. So we have a mixture of people, I'm sure, here that have seen EPLAN, that use EPLAN, maybe, older versions. Obviously, Platform 2024 just came out. But I used to be in software, engineering software, and I know that there's kind of a difference between like a first timer, I've never seen this before demo, and then the people that really care about the incremental changes between, this year's and next year's version. So Sean, my challenge to you is to maybe try to touch a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. But I have been told by many, including now people in the comments here, that you are the guy, the legend, the person to show us this. And so I also just want to say thank you for choosing to come on the show and do a live demo.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things I think that we strive for in the industry as we came together, first and foremost as friends, the ladies on Automation Ladies. But secondly, the reason we decided to do a show is because we wanted to have more candid conversations. And we wanted to have more openness about innovation, about showing things, about teaching things, about sharing things in our industry. Because from our perspective, the more we all collaborate and help each other out, the more we can all do for customers. Because ultimately, it's manufacturers that need to automate that we are all here to support in different ways, whether it's a manufacturer, OEM, systems integrator. The more we can get successful projects into automating factories that help customers get better output and more profit, the more we all make. And the pie keeps getting bigger and bigger for us. Our industry is not shrinking. It's not competitive in the way that we have to, fight each other for scraps, right? So
it's only going to increase.
Yes. So we are very excited, and we hope that this trend continues of companies being willing to come out and just show what they have in different places in different ways to people that are maybe a little bit interested, just getting started. Not everybody is ready to buy or do a full trial of a software or any, technology right away. But how do you get that conversation started? How do you get, the things that they should look at into their mind when they're ready to do something or build something? And that's been one of my frustrations with the industry is a little bit, it's been kind of opaque. You have to call people, you have to qualify for a demo. They have to really know, like, am I going to do business with you?
It's an interesting aspect you mentioned there, because from my experiences in Germany and my experiences in the US, it's kind of from a cultural perspective, it's very different. In Germany, when you go to a customer and you show them EPLAN and you show them how much time they can save and how beneficial it is, they look at the fact that every single minute that they don't buy it and implement it, they're losing money.
Yeah.
That's how they see it. And in the US, you're like, okay, look at this. It's like, you don't have to do this manual anymore. It's all automatic. And they look at you, it's like, oh, well, I don't have any time. It's like, I got so many orders and I'm really busy and I don't have time to implement it. So it's kind of a complete different frame of mind.
Yeah, it brings me, there's like a common cartoon that people show. It's salespeople, but like it's a salesperson trying to sell the wheel to somebody that's like, oh, no, I don't have time for that because they had whatever problem like with the old up in the back. And I hear that and see that a lot. So without further ado, I guess I do want to ask, you mentioned you've been with EPLAN for 30 years. That's a long time.
Yes.
And I know it's maybe more common in Germany than the US for somebody to, be with one company for so long. But what is it about EPLAN, either the product or the company or both, that really, has kept you around for this long?
It's been both. I mean, first of all, the product, I really love it. And it's just fun to use. And it's fun to see the customers or even the prospects discover it and see the capabilities and just showcase that. And just afterwards, when they embrace it and just the feedback that they give on the product is really cool. And then also the company's been fantastic, because I started as an apprentice. And then after 3 years, I started in a specific department, which initially was international sales. And I'm like, I'm not a sales guy. I'm more of a tech guy. And then they allowed me to move into the technical department, learn the software and start do trainings and start doing support. And thank you to my languages, I was able to kind of travel as well internationally and support. And EPLAN was constantly helping me to move and to find my niche and to find my area where I can thrive. And I really respect that in the company. And I think that's really important. So that's what made me stay with EPLAN for so long.
Very cool. That's also something that I care about a lot, is as I'm, helping to build a company, what do we need to do culture-wise to keep people engaged, happy? Because long-term you get a lot more value if you can have your subject matter experts stick around and continue to invest in the product, than to continually having to rehire and retrain more people. And I know that's also an issue that our customers struggle with quite a lot.
Yeah.
And some of it is, definitely just global conditions, labor market conditions. But I think in a lot of ways, sometimes they don't realize how much they're missing out, just making sure that they're a place that their existing talent wants to stay at. So well done, EPLAN. We've only heard good things from your employees. So not that saying any organization is perfect, but we've yet to hear
Yes.
anything bad about you guys. So anything else that you want to say, Sean, before we dive into sharing your screen? And if anybody in the comments has any questions before we get started on the actual product demo, please throw them up there. Questions or comments that you want to throw into the discussion.
No, the only thing I want to notify or notice is the fact that people should be able to embrace change, because again, switching over to EPLAN or embracing another software is really a change. And a lot of users are kind of they've got their own island and they're the experts of what they're doing today, and they don't want to move it. They don't want to change because they're going to lose that expertship, so to speak. But embracing new technology can really take them to the next level and kind of enhance their workflow, enhance their work that they're doing today. So be open to change and move forward with it.
Absolutely. I think it's a lot easier to change when you can actually be aware of what's out there without having to disrupt your work to go sit through a bunch of sales calls and stuff like that. So if anybody is, seeing this as a precursor to giving EPLAN a try, hopefully this will be valuable. And then, of course, thank you, everybody, for joining us live if you're on. And I know a lot more people probably wouldn't make it at this very specific hour. If you're watching this recorded, please jump into the comments as well. We'll come back and revisit this if you have questions. I'm sure some of the EPLAN team members can answer your questions in the comments or contact you after the fact. And we'll try to put some resources into our discussion and comments at the end of the demo as well, in terms of if you want to learn more, want to get a free trial, or talk to an applications engineer, and any of the above.
Cool.
So with that said, go ahead and get started sharing your screen. And
okay.
And I want to say thank you to EPLAN for sponsoring this and helping us put this together. We have other sponsors of the show, but this particular episode is just this, and we're very excited to do this. This will not be an audio episode because it is so demo focused. But what we might do is doing an interview with Sean later on the show to go on the podcast, as well as we're still hoping to do an interview with Anya after she was on our fantastic automotive panel a couple of times. So great. We have Wendell here, or sorry, Wendell, if I'm saying it incorrectly, I'm not sure. Been thinking about buying EPLAN. So, Sean, you've got your work cut out for you.
I like it.
It's amazing. That's why you need it. The end.
So you had asked for customer or people listening here that don't know about EPLAN, just to give them maybe a brief introduction on what it is.
Yeah.
So the software is really a different environment. So typically, if you're used to a CAD environment, which most people maybe use AutoCAD or other CAD applications, you work with files. You work with a lot of DWG files, and you constantly have to open and close them. You have to manage them separately. You have to organize them. You have to make sure that they're all together, that they work well together, and things like that. Well, in EPLAN, you don't really have that headache because you work on a project, and that project kind of has all of the pages. So if I just navigate here on one specific page, I can just go page up and page down and just navigate really quickly through the project. You really don't have to open or close a file. If you need to search for specific components, you can find them quickly with a simple Control F and search for the device. You can navigate to a specific page. You can have a preview. You can really quickly see all of the information in the project at once and access it quickly. Here I've got an IEC laid out project, but if you need a North American style project, that's absolutely no problem. We support the other layout, the horizontal or the ladder layout. So we can do both at any point in time. We can work in inches, we can work in millimeters, but just for the sake of preparation, I had actually prepared just this page here, or these couple of pages, just to give you an idea what it works or how it works in EPLAN. So the first thing is just simple inserting blocks and inserting symbols. So you've got symbol libraries that are available that users can access, whether it's electrical libraries for European style or international IEC style or North American style. You can access them right away. You can navigate quickly, and you can find the symbol you want and simply just drag and drop it and place it into the drawing. You can also organize them into tags. So tags allow you to put certain symbols together, so that way if you perform a specific task, if you're designing a motor starter circuit, you can have all of your symbols for that particular circuit grouped together. So let's do this. Let's start with, for example, I need my power. You can position the symbols exactly in the original spot that you created them in. I can drop a motor in here. The motor can be labeled easily and automatically. I can connect this motor here to my power rails. And you notice these auto connecting lines. If I kind of move this off, it disconnects. And if I move it back, it reconnects. This is one of the most underestimated features in EPLAN, actually, because it really provides you the focus on what you want to do and not on the details of trying to make sure that everything is connected within the drawing.
Is that labeled later or for wire labels?
The labels are going to come in later. So once you're done, select the whole project and label all of your wires at once, so you don't have to go and
keep going
as you go. Yep. So here I'm going to protect my motor with a motor overload switch. Now I'm going to drop in some contactors. And if you need to add a part number, you can simply double click on a device. You can go to the parts tab, and here you can do a device selection. And you have access to a library of parts that you can quickly use to assign a part number to any given device or symbol.
Is there a way to import those libraries from various vendors?
Yes, and even better than that, if you go to the EPLAN cloud environment that we provide, we've got what they call the data portal. And the data portal is a collection of over 430 manufacturers with over 1.5 million components. And these components allow the users to quickly select and drag them into their drawing. So whether it's drives from Siemens or from Allen Bradley or from Schneider, it really doesn't matter. The major component manufacturers are already on the data portal, and the user can simply drag and drop them right into their drawing. So it really makes the design environment and access to data quick and easy. So you don't have to navigate websites and find the components that you need. Then I need to drop in a terminal strip to go from my control cabinet to the field. And then I'm going to simply insert a cable. And then that way my little circuit is kind of complete. So it kind of gives you an idea of how quickly and easily you can kind of lay out your circuit. And if you need to duplicate this circuit, I can just drop in, I want 2 of them, and then it places them, it labels them, it does everything for you. So just the design environment and the way you interact with the software is really different to your typical kind of CAD application. It's really focused on controls design. But instead of designing via symbols, what we want to do is we're going to store these symbols as what we call macros. And these are kind of circuit diagrams that act as templates. And then instead of inserting symbols, we're going to insert templates. So now I can take this motor module, I can insert my template. And then instead of just selecting one particular variant, if I just hit the tab key, you can see I've got different variations for that motor, whether it's direct online, whether it's forward, reverse with controls, whether it's soft start, or it has the motor overload switch directly on the motor. You can select the variation you need. And once you found that variant, you just select it, and then it'll give you an option to select what size motor do you want. I've got all these different kilowatts sizes available. So if I select, for example, 5.5 kilowatt, you'll notice here, these are the values that are going to be transferred to the circuit. So the size of my fuse, of my circuit breaker, of my contactor, of my cables, of my wires are all going to change at once based on that value selected. So now that's selected. If I made a mistake, I can always go back and I can change it to a different value. So let's select a bigger one, for example, 11 kilowatt. And then you can see it suddenly changes the values of the fuses and everything associated with it. So now you can kind of see the power of EPLAN where, okay, I'm just dropping a page. I need a motor starter circuit, drag it in, drop it, and I'm done. And then you can move on to your circuit pretty quickly and efficiently. And eventually the last stage of EPLAN is really automation, where you have a configurator, and this can also be called out from the cloud. We got this eBuild Free, and this eBuild Free allows you to access various different configurations if you want to use the default ones, but you can also use your own. So you can create various different types of configurators, and you can auto-generate your drawing. So let's say you have 10 motors, you configure each motor, click on a button, and it'll generate the 10 pages with the 10 motors on each page and have all of the data behind it. So I consider EPLAN more of a data-driven design tool than it is more of a CAD application or a drawing application. So as a little wrap up, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it looks like we got some excitement here, or somebody.
That was a good demo.
It was very short,
It was
so
a good demo.
I didn't want to miss out on the on the news for the version 2024 as well.
Yeah, but I think
I love that.
really basic wise, like if somebody hasn't really touched this before, that was a very powerful, I mean, you think about people are like, oh, you know, generative AI can generate these things for you and save you time. Well, this is not generative AI, but this is a software tool that has been developed over many, many years to generate things for you, but it actually knows what it's doing. Right?
And we're not blind to AI either. As soon as AI came out, I was actually entering. It's like, can you, what size protection device do I need for a 5 kilowatt motor? And AI was saying, okay, based on this type of calculation, this is what you would require. So I think in the future, AI will be helping EPLAN in that environment to probably grow and do even things better and faster. So I think it's a compliment in that aspect. So we're not blind to AI.
Yeah, I think everybody's trying to think very methodically as to how, and different types of AI do different things. And certainly ChatGPT is all the buzz, but
exactly,
it's one type of application. So we've got Johnny throwing some links up here. He is a former EPLAN person, right? Which is
Johnny.
Very knowledgeable, but is currently working out at Rivian, if I'm not mistaken. But it's so you guys have a pretty impressive like community of resources around EPLAN as well. Just very enthusiastic users that, you know, help with education. I know Kruno is on here. He actually works for you guys, but I know his channel is kind of his own thing.
Yep.
And then I know from Germany, we have a friend over there. His EPLAN channel, I think on YouTube, is mostly in German. But
there's quite a few, like Kai Hennings as well is one of the
persons. Yeah, Kai is who I'm talking about. But he has a Discord server that's full of EPLAN users that also help each other.
That's right. I'm on that Discord server as well. He's got quite a big community, so he's really helping us a lot.
It's pretty cool. Not only can you actually access you guys for help, but there's a whole community of users that really are, you know, on the forefront of wanting to help each other learn these advanced features and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very cool. Cool. And yeah, check out the links in the comments for different resources and stuff like that. I love it. Thank you guys that are here. Just the interaction, like that we're not talking at you or just like talking into the void with the webinar where I'm like, well, did you register? Then we're going to send you a bajillion emails afterwards. So Steven's asking.
I have a question.
It's not a sales conference, right? It's more of a discovery. It's more of a discovery.
Yeah. But there are people here that want to learn more, that want to try it. And I guess we actually you talked Wendell into buying EPLAN. So I think we've gotten a good ROI on our time here so far. Thank you guys, everybody.
And maybe
I do have a question for you, Sean.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hopefully it's not going to derail your demo too much, but just out of curiosity, let's say I need to create my own symbol or my own component, because I've had to do that several times in other CAD programs. Is it similar to other CAD programs if you have to create some, you know, a schematic symbol from scratch?
I think it's a lot easier, actually. There's two options for that. You can either create your own symbol like these symbols, so that's definitely available in the software. You can create your own libraries. But even on the fly, let's say I've got a device that doesn't exist and I need to create it. So I just do a black box, what we call a black box, so I can identify now the part number associated with it. And then I can identify all of the connection points. That means the wires that are going to connect onto the device.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about.
L1, for example. And then I can add as many as I want. And then I can also go ahead and add the part number behind it. So I can store the part number of the part that I want to create. And once I'm done, all I do is I highlight it and I can just select it, save it in my library, and I'm done. So it doesn't have to be graphically accurate. As long as it's logically accurate, then you can just store it quickly and easily. If you want to make it graphically accurate, you can as well. It might take a little longer, but just off of the fly, you can just do that. Because that's one of the things too. I noticed a lot is people think of a schematic as a piece of art. Oh, look how pretty it looks. It's like, no, it's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be functional. And all you need to know is you need to know the device tag, you need to know the part number, and you need to know the screw number where the wire lands. And those are the value information. And everything else is just fluff that you don't need. And a lot of people spend a lot of time on that fluff, which really is not any added value to the schematic.
All right, we have one more question to possibly trip you up here before we go to looking at some new features. Is there a way to automate macros by importing device lists?
Automate macros by importing device lists. So importing device list, you would import a device, which is a label, and you would import a part number associated with it. Now that part number can also have in your library already a macro associated with it. And if that's the case, then in that case, you would automatically have that available. If not, it's easy to take a device and associate a macro to it. So create that link. And if not, you can always download it from the data portal, and the macro from the data portal will come with it. So there's different aspects. It depends on the situation. So it's not necessarily an easy question to answer.
No, it sounds like there's different answers, and we also have different experts. We've got Tron here chiming in, and then Johnny shared a YouTube video. So plenty of different resources to answer questions. And
actually, Johnny has a video online that shows that workflow where you take an Excel file, you import it, and then suddenly you're in your 3D panel, start dropping in components, which is pretty cool.
And then William brought up another point. There's the EPLAN forum, which is free, and that there are some resources there as well in the EPLAN community.
Yep.
So it looks like Michael got his question answered. Thank you for participating, Michael, and asking your questions. We love that.
And one last thing, maybe I haven't addressed right here. I talked more about schematics, which are not necessarily the most sexy designs in the world. But if you suddenly switch over here, you can see the 3D environment as well. So you have a complete 3D environment directly integrated within your schematics environment. So that's kind of the cool thing too, where you don't need separate software packages to work on your entire control systems. You have your P&IDs, you can have your actuator lists, you can have your single line diagrams, your pneumatics, your hydraulics, your electrical, and your panel layout, everything in one system. So that really differentiates EPLAN kind of from the rest, I would say.
Very cool. And then you guys also integrate with Rital, and there are some machines and things, right, that are meant to kind of help automate even the physical manufacturing of these panels and things after it's been done?
Correct. So if I look at the 3D panel layout here and we decide to go and visualize our drilling information, the drilling information shows me exactly where the holes are located for every one of the components I got on the back plate. I need to drill those holes and I need to modify that back plate. So instead of manually going through the motion with the drill and the tapping and the marking and the measuring and all that, you can simply download this information, and then you can write out of EPLAN. You can export it directly to the RAS machine, which is the Rital automated system. And here you've got your manufacturing data, you've got your machining, so you can export it to the Perforex, to a DXF file, or various different other tools that can automatically process that for you. So it saves you a tremendous amount of time in the panel building process.
That's pretty cool. And I think I know a couple different panel builders that are using that system. If I remember correctly, we at least Tom Huseus over at Kratos Industries.
Yep.
And I'm live right now. Fritz.
Yes, Brendan Fritz. That's right.
Brendan Fritz and his company. Yeah. Sorry, Brendan. I wanted to give you a shout out there. I think that you guys have even done maybe some joint demos.
Yeah, I was actually on site at Brendan's facility. He's got a great thing going on over there with his lean manufacturing or his lean production system. And he's really looking at the cutting edge of the technology that we offer and really wants to implement it and make his panel building process more efficient. So it's really cool what he's got going on there. And same at Kratos as well.
Very cool. Well, maybe one day we'll do an Automation Ladies
I think you should. He'd be a great candidate.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But even if, you don't have to get started with obviously the whole kit and caboodle, right? Even just using this for the design, if somebody else is manufacturing your panels, for instance, I'm sure there's a great way to kind of share your designs with, if you use it at third-party panel builder.
Absolutely.
Like that.
We've got the cloud environment. So we're leveraging the cloud, not necessarily as a design environment, but more as a collaborative environment where you can take EPLAN designs, you can upload them, you can view them online. And then you can also comment them, redline them, greenline them if needed. And then you can kind of have a complete collaboration, whether it's with other colleagues in your own company or whether it's during or through the entire value chain or supply chain, for example, between the operator and the system integrator or the system integrator and the panel builder, so they can share information quickly and easily without having to generate PDFs and send them via email and not knowing which is the last version of it and things like that. So we try to streamline those processes using the cloud.
So I'll say, just from personal experience, we had a situation today that I was running very kind of as usual, but little late and a little harried to start the demo, because we had a situation where this kind of game of telephone resulted in a really big miss. You know, it was the wrong part got procured because we were passing information between different parties via email, and something got left out. Something was said over the phone that was misunderstood. So there's always, you know, especially in complex projects, the less direct collaboration you have, the more possible issues you're going to have in miscommunications. And then just recently too, I was collaborating with Ali on a really, you know, long proposal, and that had multiple different attachments and addendums and so on, and just dealing with the different versions via email. And gosh, I know my email inbox is like over 4,000 unread emails. I've been trying to work on it for like 2 weeks, and it somehow never seems to go down.
That's a challenge right there.
When you're working on something like this important and very specific, having its own collaboration environment sort of can mean the difference between, you know, a huge costly mistake, or, you know, just being able to efficiently make sure that everybody's on the same page. And I think that's huge going forward, as just our email inboxes are so general purpose now that every high stakes project, I think, or you know, way of working should have its own collaboration environment.
And if companies have PLM systems as their collaboration platforms for their engineering processes, we can totally integrate into those. So we got interfaces to Teamcenter, to Autodesk Vault, to PTC Windchill, various different brand names of PLM systems, and any other system we can integrate to. So we got an API to customize the interfaces that we need to connect to. So it broadens our horizon to be able to communicate and collaborate with other software systems.
Very nice. So I think with that, well, I'll leave you free to move on to some other cool stuff to show.
Yeah. So let's jump into the platform 2024. So we have a major release every single year from a platform perspective, which is the core products: EPLAN Electric P8, EPLAN Fluid, EPLAN Pre-Planning, and EPLAN Pro Panel. And they kind of typically around August, September timeframe, we release a new version. So like the years prior, on August 28th, we released the platform 2024, and now we're starting the marketing campaign around it this week. And people can download it, can start using it, and take advantage of the benefits. So I'll give you an overview of what we have in that platform. So there's a few details in there, but I'll kind of jump through them and kind of focus on the major topics.
Okay.
Okay, the first thing is the IEC 81346. Are you familiar with that standard?
I'm not.
So it's people look at the IEC as it's a European standard, and it's not. IEC stands for International Electrotechnical Committee. So it means it's a worldwide standard. And the US is actually member of that committee. However, from an electrical design perspective, they kind of always been doing their own thing here in North America. But the IEC standard allows and helps users to organize their designs. So it gives them like a platform where they can say, okay, these are the type of designs we need. This is how it's going to be laid out. These are the environments you're going to work in. And the 81346 helps you to structure your machines and automation systems. So you probably heard of systems engineering, right? It's a phrase coined, I think, by IBM back in the day for organizing your machines into functions and systems. And the IEC 81346 kind of bases on that and allows you to organize it. And in EPLAN, we kind of support those systems or that standard pretty well. And it also helps you to label everything. So you can see down here, you got B for a sensor, you got BA for potential sensor, and then you got BAA or BAB to identify very specific objects. And if you don't know those codes, well, you typically have to look at the standard itself and enter that value. In EPLAN now, we've got a feature that can really help you to quickly find what the values are. You can look for motor, and it'll give you the codes that are specific for motors, and you can even add your own comments, which will help you find those much easier. Sub-project management. In EPLAN, have you an idea of what is the largest project ever created in EPLAN in terms of pages?
No.
Somebody might have beaten it by now, but back in the days, there was a project created by ThyssenKrupp, I think it was, and something like 27,000 pages in one single project.
That's for elevators, right?
What's that?
Is that for elevators?
It wasn't elevators. I think it was a steel manufacturing facility, but it was really large. So every single motor, every drive, I mean, it was hundreds, if not thousands of drives in there. And it makes a really large project. So if you want to try and work on one project with 27,000 sheets, it's kind of challenging, right, to navigate through all of that. So EPLAN provides you a functionality that allows you to break the project down into sub-projects, and then people can focus on that sub-project instead of working on the big thing. And now we have the ability to kind of configure each sub-project up front and then just click on a button and generate those sub-projects easily and quickly. So it really helps the user to segregate the project and working on smaller units instead of the whole big project. And it's also from an operator perspective, right? If you have an automotive manufacturer that has the entire manufacturing facilities, but you got 5 suppliers working on it, you just want to give one area to one supplier, the other area to the other supplier. So you don't want them to see everything, but as an operator, you want to see everything. So it kind of helps them in that aspect as well.
That's exactly how we're thinking about, or we're designing a bill of materials tool like QuoteBeam, but it's exactly breaking it into these subsections and then being able to share the right sections with the vendors or your suppliers of that particular area without, they don't need to see the whole bill of materials. They need to see their section that
just
they
their
support.
section. That's
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes
and the INC 81346 really helps in that because it helps you to organize it into functions or into locations or into products.
Yeah.
It makes it easy to filter and organize it. Yeah. So the user interface in the version 2022, so it's 2 years ago, we decided to change the user interface to a more ribbons-like, you know, and Microsoft started it off with Word and Excel and all that. And we had a very old menu-driven, and it was menus buried in menus, buried in menus. It was making it challenging working with the software. So now we kind of streamlined everything, and we are improving the user interface to make it easier for the users to work with. So if I just jump into the software here, when you look at, for example, I want to look at terminals, and you want to know where is that in my ribbons? Well, you just highlight it, and it'll show you exactly. It's in the menu Insert under Terminals, so now you can find it quickly and easily and navigate right there. So it kind of helps the users transition into this environment and find their features that they were used to or accustomed to in the older releases.
Okay, so this is the first year that the ribbon is released. I went through this.
No, it's the second year.
Second year, okay.
Yeah.
How was the response from like expert existing users? Because I know if you spent your life learning all of the menus and submenus, them changing sometimes doesn't make people happy.
And I think our expert users were the ones that gave us the most kickback.
Yeah.
Because for them it was like, I can't find anything, and it's a lot. I was used to everything. They had everything organized and they knew where it was, and suddenly they have to change. So I think the biggest challenge was for them. But the idea was to try and make a software where we can grow internationally. And the markets like North America, they're used to those types of ribbons. And we're not necessarily market leader there. So we needed to make an interface that was really attractive to the users. And I think we got that right in that particular instance. So new starters, they love it. They really enjoy it. They jump into it right away. But the existing users are still a bit of a challenge to get across.
Yeah, it's so much easier. The learning curve is so much less when it's contextual like that. It shows you what you need to see. I just know that it's exactly those expert users that have actually learned. They know exactly how to find all the submenu, you know, the crazy, complicated, because there's so many features, right? Feature rich. Softwares have to figure out how do we, you know, maintain a user experience that is learnable without like losing functionality. Of course, you don't want to do that. And I do think that the ribbon-based approach, because it's contextual, is the way to go for that, for sure.
And I was part of the team that transitioned from the functional-based menus to this ribbon approach. And have a guess how many menus we had to move across. About 2,000 plus menus.
Wow.
So we had to go through every single one of them and figure out where are we going to put it in which ribbon, in which category, or in which group, in which tab. And it was challenging, to say the least. There's quite a few rounds that were done around that.
I can only imagine. Well, good job. And thanks for letting me talk about that a little bit.
So in EPLAN, you have an environment of settings where you can define all of the settings and the details you need to. But a lot of times you're trying to change, for example, the parts management you want to access. And you don't want to jump into the settings to just come back. So a couple of those settings we've embedded directly into the ribbons right under the main object. And we continued that trend for our translations. So when you do translations in EPLAN under Translate, you can now directly have access to all of the translation database and what languages you want to translate to and in, and then have access to that directly from the menu instead of having to navigate to the settings and find those settings specifically. So we kind of streamlined that particular approach. So we got this ribbon bars import too. So people will say, what, you didn't have it before? It's like, no, initially the whole transition to that new interface was quite challenging. So a couple of things we left out, including ribbon imports, but now we caught up. So the ribbons import is pretty straightforward. So you just simply right click, go to import your ribbons. I can select here, I've got a wire properties ribbon that I customized, and I can insert it directly into my ribbon. So I'm just going to bring it here and then just put it right in front of here. And then, okay, and now you can see this wire properties. You can quickly define the gauge and the color of each wire if necessary. So you just highlight the wire, you just select the color and the gauge, and it's automatically set. So it's pretty neat. Then we've got the insert center. So the insert center is also a new approach that we took previously to our versions that were menu driven. The reason is because if you wanted to insert a symbol, you had a separate menu. If you want to insert a device, you had a separate menu. And if you want to insert a macro, you had a separate menu. So it was different menus, different options, different possibilities. So we try to bring everything now together into one insert environment where you can quickly access your symbols right here. You can go back, you can access your devices. Your devices are your electrical components. So if I'm looking here for a protection or a relay, looking for a contactor, you can see the devices here. You can see the components quickly and easily and access them. And same thing for your macros. And then we added additional possibilities. So there were a few things missing, like being able to select, to right click, for example, hit assign, and I want to assign a particular component directly to this, and I could do that now in the insert center. So it makes the working environment with the insert center a lot quicker and a lot faster. There's a new view that's available. So now it's a combined view. You've got a tree view up top and you've got a table view up top below. That used to be in previous versions. We did not have it in the last couple of them. We just brought it back in. So now it's available for users to embrace and enjoy. In terms of terminal management, terminals are a big aspect of controls design. And that's also one of the differences between North America designs and European designs. I see in Europe, they identify every single terminal, every single wire. In North America, the schematics, you really don't see many terminals. And then they always let the floor figure out where the terminals go and how they are and how many they need. So this is what we're trying to mitigate here in EPLAN, is making the terminals management inside of EPLAN as smooth and as easy as possible. So if you want to quickly manage your terminal strip in one aspect, you've got the terminal editor, and you can quickly add new parts and add new terminals to your entire terminal list. And also directly from the editor, you can navigate to the graphics. So let's take a look at this. So here we've got a page. I'm just going to navigate here quickly to another page. I've got this terminal right here. I want to see the entire terminal strip. So now we can go to devices, go to terminal strip editor, and there you can see your entire terminal strip. So maybe these terminals are on 15 different pages, but I can right click on one and I can go to graphic and jump right to the page where that terminal is located at. So it helps me to quickly find my terminals within a terminal strip and access that information quickly. We can also, as I mentioned here, just add new terminals with devices. So I can pick a part number and I say I want to add 10 of them, and the system will quickly add those 10 part numbers in there. Alignable accessories. These are considered accessories that change the width of the particular terminal strip. So you can quickly dissociate them from a terminal. You can move them around and you can reassociate them to another terminal if needed. And finally, we can check and validate the terminal strip to make sure that everything's working. So you don't have any errors. So that's another big part of EPLAN, is the error check. We've got over 500 errors that we check for, if you want to validate and make sure that your schematics are correct. If you forgot a part number, if you forgot to label a device, if you forgot to label a wire, all of that information just comes up in a list, and then you can go through and make sure you can fix them or automatically fix them if needed. So let's say here, this terminal number 4, I forgot to add a number to it. So I can just now right click, do a check. I'm going to check the terminal strip, and now it's going to tell me, oh, you've got an error. So it tells you terminal without designation. Indeed, I forgot to put a number, so I can do it right here, add terminal number 4. And then if I run that check again, it'll fix it, and the error should be gone. There it is. So quick way of making sure that your terminal strips are correctly defined. Then in the aspect of machine cablings, one of the challenges are spare conductors, right? What do I do with spare conductors? Do I wrap them up in tape and let them hang in the bottom of the panel? Well, not really. And I'm not sure how the North American standards are, but typically in Europe, the standards tell you have to land those on spare terminals. So what would be the job now is I would have to create as many spare terminals as conductors and make sure that I land them properly on those terminals. So this would be the ideal situation. Even if the conductors are not used, they would still be landed on spare terminals. So looking into EPLAN, trying to do that, it makes it a little challenging. But now we added a functionality to automatically add all of the spare conductors, but not just add them, also connect them to the terminals. So let's take a look at that. If I go here to my spare conductor page, here we've got a conductor or a cable that's connecting two terminal strips, X1 and X2. Let's take a look at the navigator. So here's my cable. I've got 4 spare conductors. And if I look at my terminals, I can see that I've only got 4 terminals, not more. And if I go to this one, I've got 4 terminals there as well. So now we've got this new functionality. I can highlight this particular cable and I can say connect cable connections. And it's going to recognize it needs to add 4 conductors, or the 4 conductors are there. It needs to connect them to 8 new terminals. So it suddenly created those 4 spare terminals, and it actually connected them to these conductors as well. So now if I was to refresh this particular report, you would see that now it would show you the complete connection of that cable. So it's a challenge today in the environment that we have, but now with this new functionality in 2024, it really makes it a lot easier to do it.
What do you think the reason is that in North America, people have been just kind of leaving these or leaving the terminals for later, or not labeling as much? Is it just because it's too time consuming?
Absolutely. Based on the tools that they use, if you look at a CAD environment, trying to identify the terminals and place a terminal in a CAD environment is a nightmare. I mean, you have hundreds and hundreds of them, trying to label and try to keep track of them across multiple pages. So they just don't even bother. They say, I'm not going to do it. And they just leave the floor, figure it out. So they kind of shift the work.
Take them off, they work.
The work still has to be done. Yeah, the work still has to be done. They just don't want to do it in the CAD environment, so they just let the floor do it. So at least the schematics are functionally correct. But ideally, you really want to capture all of that. And with EPLAN, you can really place your terminals wherever you want to, and then the system can tell you how many terminals you need. It tells you the part numbers, so it really helps you in managing those terminals efficiently and quickly.
That's great. I think as we get more automated, more complicated, having correct and up-to-date documentation for everything is more and more and more important.
And interestingly enough, people like, okay, what about schematics? Are they becoming obsolete? And I said, I think they're going to become more important than ever, because if you look at 20 years back, on any given machine, you had a minimum amount of sensors, just the minimum to make the machine work. But now with Internet 4.0, they want the feedback. They want to know what's the temperature on the machine, what's the velocity, what's the moisture. All of those different parameters need to be measured and captured. All that's doing, it's adding sensors on the machine. All those sensors need to be wired back to a control cabinet or even plugged into a PLC module. And all of that is just going to enhance the amount of terminals and the amount of cables and everything else on the machine. So it's just going to get more, not less. And you need decent tools to be able to manage that.
Yeah, you also need to equip, people coming down the road, whether that's 10 years from now or whoever. I know a lot of people, they go to do service calls on something that somebody else built or installed, and it's got no documentation, nothing makes sense. So I can only imagine somebody going in like 10 years from now to one of these machines that's had a bunch of the stuff added. And if it's not, if they can't get the resources of the information that they need, then just more and more problems down the road.
True.
And as the, like you're talking about these hundreds of pages potentially of designs, being able to cross-link and just click back and find things, or the error handling kind of showing you, right? Because the bigger your project gets, the harder it is to keep eyes on everything at all times.
Yeah. And another point too, it's like talking to customers in North America. If you look at the ladder technology, you can technically fit 32 points of IO on one single page. In an IEC drawing, it would be 4 different pages. So the biggest complaint was, well, in the IEC drawings, you have so many more pages and it's just your huge documentation and I have to navigate through all of those. But if you have the right tools, it's no problem to navigate through 4 more pages than it is today on one. And the only reason why they're doing this type of ladder diagram is because, again, using CAD tools is the easiest possible approach to create schematics. So the paradigm shift is there for a reason, and I think in the long term, people are going to embrace more the automated environment and the easy to navigate environment. And the number of pages is not really going to be relevant anymore, because we're not printing the documents anymore, really, are we? We're just leaving them online and making them accessible. So it's changing, I think.
Absolutely.
So calculation, that was something that customers and prospects have been asking for a while in EPLAN. It's like, can we do calculations in EPLAN? Voltage drop, SCCR or FLAs, full loaded amps, short circuit ratings and things like that. And up until now, it's like, yeah, we can, but you have to export the data, bring it into Excel, do your calculations in Excel and bring it back in. Or you'd have to write an API piece of code to do it. So now we've embedded everything into EPLAN, and now we can finally do calculations. So we use what we call these block properties. It's kind of a very elaborate functionality in EPLAN that allows you to access from one object multiple different other objects and collect the information and things like that. So it's really powerful, but also kind of very advanced in terms of feature. But in that environment, we've added the calculation capabilities. So in this example, if you have a wire length of 100 meters, and based on a table on what type of cross section you have and what type of copper resistance you have, you can calculate the total resistance of the wire. So if you want to do all of your DC safety circuit voltage drops to make sure that you have the signal that comes at the PLC at the end of your 25 e-stops, then you can calculate that. Or if you have a cable that's too long and the voltage doesn't come to the motor, you can discover that directly in EPLAN now, which makes the working with EPLAN a lot easier. So voltage drops, if you got a cable length, that'll impact the voltage drops, and you can figure out, do you have enough still to run your motor or even your full loaded amps. So if we go into EPLAN, I'm just going to take a look here at this example. Here we've got a MCC, and the MCC has a motor. I've got a cable, it's 50 meters, and currently the voltage drop is 2.4 volts at 0.6%. So the norms typically say don't have more than 3 to 5% voltage drop, right, on any given motor. Otherwise, it might not function properly. So let's say I move this motor, I move the pump to a different location, and now suddenly my cable is 120 meters long. Now I can just simply modify that value. I can update the information, and now I've got a voltage. Oops, I can update my connections, and now I've got a voltage drop. Oh, I should change the length of the cable. I used the wrong field there, so going too fast. So let's go back to this. Now I've changed the 120 meters, and now if I update that cable, now you can see the voltage drop is 5.7. It's still 1.4%, so it's still okay to work with. So those are kind of functionality that you can validate directly in your schematics while you're doing the design instead of going back out. Or another one that's fun as well is your branch protectors, right? Depending on how many branches you have, you might have more, or you might have a different size protection device needed. So here I'm just going to select additional branch protectors. And where is it here? So I'm just going to drag them. Oh, not this one. This one here. So if I drop in a branch protector, I'm going to select the first one is 5 amps. The second branch is going to be a 10 amp branch. So you can quickly and easily pick your sizing. And then you can see at the end here, I'm going to select this one as a 20. And now if I update the wires, the updating the wires is because you have these auto connecting lines. And then the system then just kind of goes through all of those again and recalculates the values based off of that. So it's just kind of figuring out where it's at. And there you've got a total amp for this one, which is, if you've got a concurrent factor of 0.6, it'll give you a 21 amp protection device needed up there. So kind of facilitating your design in EPLAN while you're doing it.
Yeah, Johnny made a comment here. I think the main difference is EPLAN is a design tool, whereas AutoCAD is a drawing tool that forces you to manage your engineering in Excel.
Yes.
Summarized it nicely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Johnny. And then the typical application is the bill of materials, right? You constantly have to synchronize the Excel bill of materials with the drawings and making sure one is in there and they're both synchronized. And it's just a challenging work, where in EPLAN everything is in one environment. And then with a block property calculation, we also have the ability to count. So with our EPLAN pre-planning tool, we use it for PNIDs. We use it also for machine machine layouts and things like that. And you want to know in a particular area, how many pumps do you have and what is the total consumption. So now with these block properties, you can count the amount of objects you have in any given area. You can also add a particular value for those devices. And it gives you a whole new level of understanding of your control system, which you didn't necessarily have before, which is really cool. So these are just very detailed informations in regarding the amount of replacement text tables that we have, and we can also create your own block properties if needed in the EPLAN, but that's really for kind of advanced users out there and knowing that we have now these features in version 2024. The symbolic address, we consider those, or they also called tags. That's kind of the tag that you have for your PLC programming. And the way that these tags are put together is you can select different attributes from EPLAN. So now you got the capability of moving them forward or backwards. You can interchange them, and you can easily generate these tags automatically now using EPLAN in version 2024. And finally, just with a click of a button, you can export them all to Excel directly from the PLC environment. So that was one thing that was missing. You could do it before as well, but it was a little more challenging. We just made it easier to access. And how familiar are you with Automation ML?
I'm not.
So Automation ML is trying to be like a neutral data interface, where the idea is there are so many different tools out there, and people still have to design and create systems, and the ability to interface or to exchange data between those tools is really challenging. So yeah. Automation ML is trying to mitigate that by creating a neutral environment where the various tools can just dump their information in an Automation ML file, and any other tool can just pull the information that it needs. And in terms of PLCs, EPLAN Electric P8 has all of the IOs. It has all of the sensors. It has all of the inputs, the outputs. You know what's connected to what. And the software, the PLC software, has all the programming environment. So the information from the schematics needs to be transferred to the programming environment. So what do you do today? A typical is a manual takeoff. And we have now, through Automation ML, the ability to automatically transfer that data from EPLAN directly to the PLC programming environments. We've had it for the TIA portal for Siemens. We've had it for Studio 5000 with Rockwell. We've had it with Mitsubishi Electric, with various different other ones, B&R, Phoenix Contact, and things like that. And now we've added one for the Asian market, which is Omron. So if you're working with Omron PLCs, now you can exchange the information much easier with EPLAN.
That's great.
And finally, talking about pre-planning, which is our tool also for P and IDs. So you have a difference between a loop and a loop function. And in the loop function, we weren't able to associate part numbers to it. So now we have the ability to add parts to a loop function. So you don't have to create another level of device. So it makes things a lot easier. And it makes your P and IDs also easier to design and quicker to implement. So that was the 2D side, the boring side, right? Now we're going to go to the fun side, which is the 3D side. And the first thing that we've improved in our Pro Panel application is the navigation cube. So the navigation cube, for people working in the mechanical world, it's nothing new. But for EPLAN, it is. And now you can actually click on the cube and you can quickly navigate the cube and access the various different surfaces you want. You can rotate it if needed. So quickly access the surface and the view you want to work with it. So that's a nice little feature that's going to make working with the 3D model a lot easier and more fun. Then we have the Mind the Gap. So have you had the chance to go to London?
Yes, I actually lived in England for a little bit when I was a kid before I moved to Houston.
So you're familiar with Mind the Gap, right?
Yes.
It's on every single loudspeaker. Mind the Gap, Mind the Gap. So in this approach, what does Mind the Gap have to do with EPLAN? Well, in EPLAN, if you build a control cabinet, when you place your components on a DIN rail, you leave a lot of gaps, right? Just because you need some space and you don't know if you're going to put something in between. And at the end, most of the time, you forget to put things together, and trying to close the gaps, it makes it challenging. So now we've added a functionality in EPLAN that automatically fills the gaps for you. So you just highlight your devices and the system automatically puts them together and kind of makes the control cabinet nice and easy. So now I'm going to print some new t-shirts and they're all going to say, fill the gap by EPLAN.
I'll take one.
There you go.
I'll take one.
So if we take a look at how that looks like in EPLAN, let's just go over to the layout space. I'm going to open up my enclosure, identify my mounting panel, look at it from the front. And now here we've got some components, and you can see there's gaps in between, so I can highlight the whole thing. And I can now go to my edit, line up without gaps, specify the first device, and they automatically all shrink together. So it's a really nifty little function to help you lay out your control cabinet in a very powerful way. One quick thing that I want to add with ProPanel that I always forget to mention, which is actually a really cool thing. If you go here to view, you can see what they call mounting clearances. That's something that most of the engineers forget today, right? Because it's buried in a PDF on page 54, and it's like, please leave 2 inches of space above and below the component for heat dissipation. And next thing you know, the VFD fails. Why? Because it doesn't. It's heating up too much.
This close together.
That's right. That's right. Try and save money on the control panel. And this is a really cool function because it shows you how to see exactly visually how much space your clearances need, and to make sure you don't have any other devices within those spaces. So it's a nifty little feature that I always forget to mention, but I think has a lot of value in the 3D design of control cabinets.
Yeah, that's really important, you know, for both for safety and for longevity, right?
Absolutely.
Of the cabinet. And I do see a lot of people posting like pictures of panels and stuff, and inevitably somebody gets to point out that they should have left more space below or above or on the side of something that they notice in there.
Yep. And then finally, weight calculation. So one important aspect, you want to ship the control cabinet. How much does it weigh? Well, now we've implemented a weight calculation capability directly in ProPanel. So it can calculate the total enclosure weight, and it includes the weight of every single wire. It includes the weight of the wire ducts, the weight of the DIN rail. So really every single object and item inside of that control cabinet is summed up and gives you the total weight of the control cabinet. So now that way you have a good idea of how heavy it's going to be. If you want to do air freight, that's going to be a lot more expensive, but if you want to ship it, you still need to know how much it weighs. So it's a nice little feature there. And that kind of sums it up. So this is a bit of a summary of all the major topics that we implemented in 2024. But I think there's some really cool things, and there's a lot more details. And if you have a chance to go to the web, go to eplan.help, and that will give you access to the help files of EPLAN. And in there's a section called News, and you can read through all of the new features of the new platform 2024. So really cool things. And sometimes I wish I was more on the design side to help to use EPLAN and design the systems than on the presenter side, but I still love what I do, and it's a lot of fun.
I think that's why Johnny's so happy. He gets to work on it now with it.
Yes.
And then come in and chime in on these things, but it's really not his job. We had some questions, and thankfully, you know, people in the comments are answering the questions as well. Can you use a 3D connection space mouse in the 3D environment? Absolutely.
Yes, I have one. It's really cool. So you have your 3D connection mouse on one hand and then the mouse on the other, and you can quickly navigate through everything. So it works great. Mm-hmm.
And then our friend Bobby Cole has a question here that I won't oblige you to answer. But when will we see EPLAN completely in the cloud?
It's going to be a little bit, but the goal is eventually to be able to go to the cloud and have our native application in the cloud working there. So if you have an Azure environment today, you can already take the EPLAN application and port it to that cloud and have it run in the cloud. So we do have options in that area today. Or if you use a Citrix environment, you can do that as well. But yes, that's one of the goals that we're moving towards, and eventually we'll get there. So. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Our buddy Vlad made a comment earlier, but he says, I really like the fact that EPLAN provides a free version for students. Super important for the industry. And I would encourage any manufacturer or especially software company to create free versions or something. Get students, you know, get their hands on actual programs that the industry is using, because if you don't give it to them for free, the schools are going to default to the cheapest thing that is available to them because schools don't have money.
Yep.
And then you're going to miss out on all these people going out in the industry and using the tools that they know.
And that's where I want to give a shout out to the community colleges as well, because I think they're a lot closer to what the industry needs. If you look at those big colleges and you look at electrical engineering, all they focus on is electronics. It's resistors, it's diodes. And it really, once they go into the manufacturing, feels like they've never seen a control cabinet in their life. And that's why when we go to those universities and we present EPLAN, it's like, there's not really any use for it because we don't have the curriculum for it. But the community colleges, a lot of them actually do. And we try to work very tightly with them. And yes, we've got free student versions, college versions, so they can jump in and use it and enjoy it.
My other question, and I just like to ask this of all software companies, is what about your professional licensing and how does that work? What does licensing look like for EPLAN?
Licensing, again, it's a software that enhances the productivity of a company once they use it. So, of course, it has a value and it has a price. It's not really a free software, and we also have to feed our family in one way, shape, or form, right? So we've got different tiers of software. So we got a compact version, a select version, a professional version, and then you can have it as a standalone version or in a network version. And you can also have multiple different add-ons or elements you can add to it. So it helps you to kind of customize the software to what you need and not pay more than what you really need. So we try to combine them. And that's why we've got account managers all across the country. They can really sit down with you, see what you're doing today, see how you can migrate from today to the EPLAN environment. What do you need? And then really custom create a quote for you and help you jump on board quickly and easily.
And do you do both perpetual licensing and subscriptions, or
no? We've gone away from perpetual. We now just do subscription only. Okay. And at first it was kind of like, yeah, but perpetual, it's so comfortable. The license is yours and things like that. But one of the feedback we got from one of our customers was like, thank goodness you now have a subscription. It's like, why is that? It's like, I can write it off every year. I'm like, yeah. So it's a huge benefit for companies to be able to have a subscription license versus a perpetual license. And now we're completely subscription. So yeah.
I'm a fan of that. And I know that sometimes, the argument can be made that you have so many, different subscriptions and the costs add up. But then it really is, you're paying for the usage you get and the value, right? And you can write it off every year. But also, it keeps you using the latest version. What I see a pitfall of perpetual licensing oftentimes is this mindset. Well, I've already paid for it, so let's just use the one we've already paid. Let's not pay for support or updates. And then once you're like 5 years into that hole, you're now using unsupported software that doesn't connect to anything, that nobody knows how to fix or use. And you end up having to start from scratch, either with a new license of something else, or most of the time companies use that then as an opportunity to switch to something completely different, which if keeping up with the software that you already use had actually met your needs, then that's a huge waste of time and effort and money on everybody's side. So personally, I think it's great to be able to then keep up with the new features as well.
And the other thing is taking advantage of new technology too. I mean, the operating systems change, the interface changes, the new drivers are up there for new hardware and things like that. And you want to be able to support those. And if you always stay on the old software applications, well, they're not guaranteed they're going to work. They might work. You might be lucky, but they're probably not. And you want to make sure, and especially when you're talking about professional environments, it's a professional environment. You need those tools for your business to thrive. So you want to make sure that the tools that you're using are up to par and are efficient. So it's a really a good message to the business community.
Absolutely.
The rate at which we see updates to our operating systems now compared to 10 years ago is
nuts.
We have jokes around here about update Tuesdays and update Wednesdays because it's like laptop's just not going to work.
It's about right. Yeah. That's another thing that the cloud allows you to, right? You just log into the cloud, and next thing you know, like I start my Firefox, and next thing you know, I've got a new version of Firefox that was just updated, and I don't have to figure. Before it was like, okay, which version am I on? Can I jump from this version to the latest one, or do I have to go in steps? Or it's so the cloud really makes that easy. As soon as you open it up, it's there.
And then having different things integrated via APIs or these connections, right? Like I know that Chrome is a memory hog and terrible in a lot of ways, but you're going to have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands because I've got so many Chrome extensions that I'm used to using that opening up another window or another software, that shortcut, that automation to me of having it in my workflow, just in the window where I'm already working, is a huge enough value for me to ignore, some other downfalls, right? Every software or product or technology is going to have its pros and cons.
But
I think the emphasis on automation right now, we just have so many tools available to us that making them easy to use and actually save time versus just adding more tools that don't save time are huge.
And the cloud adds another benefit too. It makes you operating system agnostic, because if you work with a browser, the browser runs in Linux, it runs in iOS, it runs in Windows. So now you can use any hardware platform. You just open up the browser, you launch your application, and you start working in the background. It's you don't have to worry about any of that. So it really gives a new dimension to kind of software tools and how to use them.
Well, speaking about cloud, and I know we're over time, so if anybody's leaving right now, I understand and thank you. But I just read that the Toyota shutdown that happened in Japan recently was due to them running out of disk space.
Oh wow! I didn't read about that.
Yeah, like they literally ran out of memory.
That's crazy.
To run their plant operations and had to suspend. I don't know for how many days it was, but you know that with the car manufacturer, like at the rate that they're pumping those out in Japan too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
Not an insubstantial amount of money right there. And the reasoning apparently was this.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So something to noodle on. I'm just gonna throw up a few more comments before we leave. So we've had, thank you, some great feedback. This was very helpful. Thanks, Benjamin, for attending. We appreciate it. Johnny says, and Sean can listen to me complain. So this was my comment from earlier. It's funny when you have, and I've experienced this in the past as well, like when I was with CST selling, working with electromagnetic simulation software, some of our customers were ex-CST people, and they were always the hardest on us.
They know a lot more than the average customers, that they'll really go in the details and
they hammer you for sure.
But I enjoy it. Johnny is an extremely smart person, and he's really while he was working at EPLAN, he took EPLAN to another level, and he's doing a great job there at Rivian. So it's a pleasure working with him.
Very cool. And then Kai actually got to join us. We know that late hour or early, I don't know, on your side.
Late hour, yeah, in Germany.
Yeah, we're not very well set up for our European audience, but thank you so much for joining us, Kai. You probably missed it, but I gave you a shout out at the beginning. So want to point out again, resources. Connect with Kai Hennings on LinkedIn if you don't know him, if you're into EPLAN. If you speak German, subscribe to his YouTube channel. I think he's probably putting out.
He does a lot of content in English as well.
Now as well, right? Yeah. Really good. And then ask me or him or anybody. I'm on the Discord. I think a lot of people, in the group were around here or in the comments or on the EPLAN Discord as well, if you want to get an invite. Yeah, and then Stephen Cox, thank you for joining. Thank you for asking your thoughtful questions, considering EPLAN for the future. He says he hopes he gets the chance to evaluate it soon. So we are all around once you get ready to do that and answer any more questions. And thanks for laughing with us. We like to have.
We'll be at the Automation Fair too in November in Boston this year. I don't know if the Automation ladies will be there as well. I hope so. And
we will not.
No.
No,
nope. Not.
That's one of the few shows we haven't been invited to this year, to be honest.
Well, you can visit it. Can't you go as a visitor and just walk around?
It's not free anymore. Now it costs $400 to attend.
Oh, that's right. They merged it with the Rock Live, so they've got like 2 events in one.
Yeah. So that was a new thing. I forget who made the point of that, but it's no longer free to attend.
Okay.
Which I think for most serious business, it doesn't really. $400 is not going to deter most people, but I think what it does, unfortunately, is make it very close. It makes it a closed ecosystem, and it very much keeps people that are maybe local and would otherwise be interested in sort of checking it out.
Mm-hmm.
Or people that don't have, support from their employer. Literally, I know some people that take PTO to go to these things. U.S. term for paid time off.
Yeah.
And then really that extra $400 expense, if somebody's already paying out of pocket or, taking unpaid time, then that can really be.
Is it also for the floor? Because I'm not sure if they separate the floor for everything. Okay.
The way I understood it was that it now, because most of the shows that are free, it's just the floor that is free. You usually are not able to attend like technical sessions or trainings.
Yeah.
Or maybe things other than the main pass. Yeah. But they did just release registration for Automate 2024.
I saw that. Yep.
Next year. So you'll definitely see us there.
Yeah, we'll be there too, I think.
Very cool. And then, I think I'll probably bump into EPLAN at a few more events. MIA was one where I got to see you guys earlier this year.
Yep.
So we look forward to continuing to stay up to date. Maybe we can lure you back on next year to do a Platform 2025 update.
Absolutely, or even in between for any other topic. I enjoy making these kind of shows.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sean. We very much appreciate it. Thank you, everybody that joined us. If you're watching this later, comment, interact, share the video, ask us questions. Thank you for following Automation Ladies. And I guess like a good social media person, host, whatever I'm supposed to say. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And we have a YouTube channel now where this is streaming as well. So please subscribe to that. And that's all we got for today. And we will be back we actually have a hardware demo for the first time next month as one of our lives. And we will be back with scheduled audio episodes starting next month. We needed a little bit of a breather. So we're looking forward to season 3 kicking off here soon. But thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you, Automation Ladies, for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.